Game engine architecture is very complicated, especially when you look at something like Unreal Engine. The main downside of developing generalist engines is the extra overhead that comes with it. That's why I believe custom engines should aim to do a few things better rather than everything. When I was implementing features for the first time, I found that once they were functional, it was much easier to go back and integrate it with the rest of the code base. OOP is trying to make the code easy to maintain and to understand by other human beings. DoD is not a perfect opposite, but the focus is on making the code performant for the CPU, which I guess you could say that it's easy to understand by the computer. I had to find a balance between them when designing my engine. The key is to understand what each system needs to do, how often it runs, and how much data it handles. Having at least a rough idea of how the CPU works gave me everything I needed to make at least half-decent design decisions about this. Now, if immortality was on the table, I would have probably tried to make everything from scratch. It would be a great learning experience, but making things from scratch takes a lot of time, especially game engines. So even though external libraries seem like a good idea to save time, it's not always clear how long it'll actually take to learn and also integrate them with the rest of the pipeline. I tried Entity for data-oriented design, and after you get the hang of it, it's great. It becomes very easy to use the entity component system paradigm. And yeah, it's even used in Minecraft. The Entity has a lot of other features, like reflection, event handling, resource system, and a ton more. I think getting experience with your tools is the only way you can learn them. I made a few systems with the Entity, and while they're not even close to being as robust as in other engines, I will never ever take for granted how easy it is to save scenes in other engines, until I tried to make my own system. Making a demo that you feel excited to build should probably be the first thing you decide for your engine. Afterwards, you can break it down into the features it needs and start building them. Graphics is a pretty hard, complex, and broad domain that I never gotten myself into. I did some projects last year, but my knowledge was pretty superficial of the topic. Last year I thought it was kinda boring because you had to do so much work and only get visual output, as opposed to like making tools or systems or even gameplay code that you could see immediately doing something. I had that opinion of graphics for a pretty long time now, and it changed when I made this renderer. I called it a grand strategy renderer. On the topic of graphics, I think it's fair to avoid graphics programming if you're not interested in it, but the basic knowledge goes a long way, especially because almost all games use rendering in some shape or form. In the end, all games are basically pixels on the screen, and graphics is an essential component of how they function. Now, the great thing about OpenGL is that I would still add it as a graphics API in my next project, just because it's so easy to use and prototype new features. The next project is a custom engine for strategy games made in a team of 7 programmers. Our main reference games were Bad North and Cossacks 3. Working in a team is way harder than doing things on your own. You have to consider more factors when programming, like how is somebody going to review your feature or test your API. Progress almost always feels slower compared to working solo, even though more features are being built at the same time. On a more positive note, it's really refreshing to solve problems in a cooperative way. And to be honest, I really don't feel like an expert on teamwork, so I'll probably get back to you later when I have it all figured out.